There's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing things that make sense, but they just don't feel true. And if you're honest, not polite honest, but just functional honest, you already know whether that's you. Because this isn't about laziness. It isn't about lack of ambition. It's not about being lost. It's about something quieter. You build a life that looks reasonable from the outside, responsible, productive, mature. But yet, underneath it is a low-grade grief running through it. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's just persistent. It's a kind of sense that just somewhere along the way, rather than choosing your life, you just started to accept a version of it. And the most dangerous part of that is you can explain exactly why it happened. Welcome back to Master Your Mindset, Master Your Life. I'm Sanj, and I'm here to help you get back on track, to get from stuck to unstoppable, from surviving to thriving. I'm here to give you short, actionable podcasts to help you master your mindset so you can master your life. If you get something from this episode, let me know. Drop me a DM on Instagram at just.live.coaching and share this episode with someone who you know who would really benefit from hearing this. So, you've accepted a version of life instead of choosing it. And it happens to a lot of people. They don't drift because they're careless. They drift because they're reasonable. It's not as if one day you woke up and you said, you know what, I think I'll abandon the parts of myself that just feel most alive. No. What happened was you adjusted, you compromised, you delayed, and you just told yourself things like, it's not the season. This is what responsibility looks like. I'll come back to it later. And at the time, each one of those thoughts was logical, but that is the trap. A life can make perfect sense, but it can still be the wrong life for you. And the problem is no alarm goes off when that happens. There's no crisis. There's no explosion. What it is just a gradual trade. Just a shift slowly from aliveness to approval, truth to stability, from desire to explanation. And the worst thing is because nothing breaks, you just keep going. And so let's name that pattern clearly. You stay busy, you stay productive, you stay useful, not because you're inspired, but because stillness would force a reckoning you're not ready to have. Busyness becomes emotional anesthesia. As I said a couple of episodes ago, you're always doing things to avoid what you need to actually be looking at. If you're always doing, you never have to sit with those questions. Is this what I actually want, or what I just learned to accept? Productivity, it becomes a shield, and responsibility becomes a hiding place. And the world rewards you for it, which makes it even harder to stop. And the version of you that never got a vote, it's because it feels indulgent. Because there's a version of you that never got a fair chance. Not because you were incapable, but because that version didn't fit neatly into the expectations around you. Maybe they were a bit bolder. Maybe that version of you was less agreeable, more expressive, more demanding, more honest. And just over time, you didn't kill that version. What happened is you just stopped listening to them. At first, it was just one thing, then another, and then another. And that's the grief you feel now. Not for something you lost, but something that you never allowed. And that grief without the acknowledgement, it doesn't resolve itself. It hardens. It turns to resentment, irritability, emotional flatness. Yeah, it's that quiet anger at your life that you're just supposed to be grateful for. But that invisible cost of acceptance, you accepting the life that you've got, the cost that no one warned you about, when you repeatedly accept things that just don't feel true to yourself, you start losing trust in yourself. Not consciously, subtly. You stop believing your own impulses. You start second guessing your desires. You learn not to take yourself seriously. And the problem is that once self-trust erodes, everything else follows. Yeah, your decisions get slower. Your motivation becomes inconsistent. Your discipline, it feels forced. and your confidence turns performative. Yeah, it's not that you're not capable, you're still capable, but you're just no longer aligned. That's why the rest doesn't help. That's why mindset tricks don't stick. That's why motivation comes in bursts and disappears just as fast. The problem was never effort. It was that self-betrayal repeatedly over time. So here's a question you need to start to ask yourself. Yeah. You need to wait, take a step back. You need to start thinking to yourself, would you still choose this life? Not hypothetically, not someday, now. And just sit with that. If the answer is no, don't rush to fix it. First, you need to own it. Because clarity without ownership just becomes another thing you know, but you don't act on. So say this slowly. Yeah, if nothing changes, you don't suddenly explode, you don't fall apart, you just keep going. Here's a consequence check. If nothing changes, you don't suddenly explode or fall apart. The first thing you need to do, instead of trying to fix it, is you need to own it. You need to sit with that ownership. You need to take a moment, realize that you are in this situation that you don't want to be in. Because without that clarity, without ownership, it just becomes another thing you know, but you don't act on. So if nothing changes, you don't suddenly explode. You don't fall apart. You just keep going. More capable, more tired, more disconnected from yourself. And you just become someone who just gives good advice, but doesn't quite trust their own direction. You're someone who looks steady, but inside you feel hollow. And one day you realize the resentment isn't towards your circumstances. It's towards yourself for knowing and not choosing. That's what the real cost is. Where you stop is where your current standard is. Let's be honest. You're willing to accept a certain standard. If you feel you're overperforming that standard, you're going to start taking action to sabotage yourself. And you're then going to start acting within the standard that you believe you're worthy of. So the first thing you need to do is you need to become aware. You need awareness, because that's a low cost, high honesty. And so name one area of your life that works but just doesn't feel true. Not 5, not your whole life, just one. Say it plainly, no justification. I stayed because it made sense, not because I chose it. If you can't name it, you're not ready to move. The next thing is your behavioral integrity. Identify one weekly action that reinforces that misalignment. Not a feeling, not a story, a behavior, something you do. And then ask yourself, what would I stop doing if I respected my own truth here? Stopping is harder than starting, and that's why this matters. The third thing is your identity boundary. And this is the real line. This is where you are still choosing approval over alignment. Not loudly, but quietly. This is where a conversation you avoid. This is where it is a desire that you're downplaying, a truth that you keep postponing. So decide once where approval no longer gets a vote in your life. No announcement, no drama, just a decision that you keep. That's identity work. Remember, you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not unmotivated. You are capable, but you are just out of alignment. And your alignment, it isn't found. It's chosen. Not once, but repeatedly. And the moment when you stop accepting what merely makes sense and start choosing what feels true, you don't become reckless. You become trustworthy to yourself. And that's when everything changes. If you got something from this episode, please let me know. Let me know what stuck. Let me know what hit home. Let me know what changes you're going to make drop me a DM at just.live.coaching, or join Master Your Mindset, Master Your Life community on Facebook, and let me know what action you're going to take to help get you from where you are so you can start living more in alignment. Remember, if you do nothing, that quiet grief, it doesn't disappear. It turns into a drift. It turns into resentment and just a slow loss of trust in yourself. So if you're ready to stop negotiating with that truth, let me know, what action are you taking, not for motivation. Let me know for ownership. Yeah, this work is about breaking your unconscious patterns and restoring self-leadership. When you start doing that, when you start to master that, when you master that alignment, you can master your mindset so you can master your life. Thank you.